Leah James, and this is the Traveling Table Dinner Series. I think that actually segues really nicely into your question then, Eliza, if you're comfortable asking the question that you pulled.
So my question is, what does success look like and feel like for you? And I just want to say thank you again. I know we said this earlier, for not making this all about work. I was actually on a work call earlier this week, and we started by introducing ourselves. It was like a call where we didn't all know each other, and we started by introducing ourselves and saying our name, what organization we're affiliated with, and then something we're affiliated with that isn't work. And I went last of like 20 people, and by the time it got to me, I could not think of one thing I was affiliated with that wasn't work, aside from being a mom. And I have been thinking the past couple of days, like, who am I outside of work? Like, if I strip away my job title or my mom title, what's left? So I really appreciate this approach. And I think success looks like being at peace with where I'm at. And I really like that you said that, Damien, and Teresa. I think you guys both used that word earlier. And in my work, in my work, I do help students think about, what does success look like and feel like for you? Does that look like getting a college degree, or does it look like being home and present with your kids, or does it look like traveling and going to museums and climbing a mountain? And I don't think that there's not one outcome that I think like you've made it or you haven't made it. And maybe for me, what my success looks like would not be success for you, Damon, or I think we each have to decide at the end of the day, if this was my last day, would I be happy with where I am? Would I be happy with the footprint I've left on the world, in a big way or in a small way, however that has played out for you? Does this feel good? Does this feel fulfilling and enriching and wholesome and something that you can be proud of? And for me, that's being genuine every day and giving my best to the world and sharing love and joy and excitement and experiencing every good food and the beach and interacting with humans and animals and the dirt. And I think that's part of why the pandemic has been really hard for me, is that we're spending so much time sitting on our couches in front of a screen, and I need more dirt under my fingernails than that lifestyle has to offer me. And I'm trying to get back to things that feel authentic and tangible.
The dirt under the fingernails, that's like, I think, I don't know, I think that's just a really good analogy, because it's about like being out in the world again and being with people. I feel like I've seen you doing a lot of really interesting things recently too, through your social media. But I've been really intrigued by, like, did you do that stuff before the pandemic? Is this new? Is it like, how does that also fit into this getting back out into the world comment?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No. It was genuinely to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said when we first sat down, I am trying to figure out who I am now, because it's not just the pandemic. It's also, at the same time that the pandemic happened, I also got this whole new identity of being a mom. So I am trying to figure out what that looks like now in this new era. I mean, I think of a lot of the things that I'm trying to do more of, like baking and bike riding and traveling, are things that I did do before the pandemic, and those were the things that gave me an identity. So yeah, so some new and some repeated. Yeah.
Okay. Who would you like to ask your question to?
I think Andrew.
Yeah, what? Repeat the question just so I have it fresh.
What I took it a little roundabout, so take it wherever it feels good to you. But what does success look like and feel like for you?
Yeah, and trying to think about that in a non sort of professional work manner is certainly tough for me in particular, I would say. One of the things that you had talked about earlier was the last thing that you say to your daughter when you put her to sleep. And, the term that came to mind for that, it was a ritual, right? That rituals matter. Eating dinner around the table is a ritual, right? Like it's something that you do on repeat, and there's certain things that are, that are expected or anticipated or comforting or take on new meaning with new experiences that, so thinking a little bit about success, more like repeating of things than new things. The visual I remember learning a long time ago and realizing was a spiral staircase, right? That if you look at it from the top, you're doing the same thing over and over again, but you're not on the same sort of exact level, and the value of that, right? So like you eat one meal, you are not done eating meals, right? And in a very sort of like practical, job accomplishing sort of way, it's like, well, we did that step. We're done with that, right? Like we can move on. But life has a way of asserting itself to say like, no, the point is not like progression, success is not necessarily like checking a box on something, but it's being at peace, to Damien Teresa's point, as well as Lanisha, your point earlier. It's about being at peace, sometimes doing the same thing, over, and not feeling this like it has to be so profoundly sort of successful from a like I accomplished that thing, right? I remember when I was a classroom teacher years ago, telling my students, there's only two things I want you to have, right? I want you to learn how to learn and learn to love learning, because I don't know what the future is going to be. And I know half of what I'm teaching you is not going to be useful in 4 years' time. But if you can not those two things, you'll be fine, because I can't predict which things are not useful of what I'm trying to teach you. But it's that sort of like, maybe the comfort in the repeat, and finding those rituals, whatever they are, that can help us see the world new. And all of this actually reminds me of a poem from T.S. Eliot, which says this. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time, through the unknown, remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree, not known, because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between the two waves of the sea.
Were you thinking about that the whole time we were talking? Because I feel like that seriously has been the reference throughout the entire conversation of everything we've talked about.
Not that poem specifically, but
sorry, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
But I do think that the kind of the nature of time and ritual and sort of like returning, is at the heart of so many what people were saying, and the pandemic sort of put things on like in a weird sort of time warp. Is certainly what it feels like, eternity in a moment in some respect, because it was so like Groundhog Day repeat in some ways, and it was like, and maybe we all are a little bit stuck in our own Groundhog Day until we figure out the thing, and the thing that helps us be more authentically ourselves, and sometimes I feel like if I'm making the same mistake, I was in a conversation at work earlier this week and I said, I don't like to make the same mistake twice. But then I said to somebody, but if I am, that probably means I didn't learn what I needed to the first time. And so being a sponge for trying to learn and figure out what there is to learn from whatever we're experiencing. But, getting to the point where we're at peace with that, I guess is the...
I've just been sitting over here thinking about how powerful you all play roles in the world with all people, right? Like personally, your families, your friends, your relationships that you meet, professionally, the way that you interact with young people or college-age people or adults. You all are already leaving a legacy. And what I thought you all were going to connect on is not at all what just happened at all. So this is really powerful. So thank you. Very last question I have for you all. I would just like to know, this one we will go around the table. What's the one thing you're going to take from tonight and carry through with you in your regular life outside of this dinner? And I'm going to put you on the spot because you're to the left of me. I'm going to start with Damien.
Focusing, maintaining my new normal, and being careful about my timeouts.
I love the idea of timeouts. Yeah.
From people who are not added value at the moment and not throwing them away, because we don't want to throw people away. People are valuable.
I don't know. I feel like there was a lot where I'm like, man, I could go deep. There was a lot of takeaways and I'm a processor, so I probably need to process a little bit more. But just on the surface, my gut reaction to that question is, I want to do more things like this. Like I'm an introvert, and, I think I display extrovert because I work with students a lot, and I like people. I genuinely enjoy people. But that's not where my energy comes from. But I don't know that I push myself in this way, or I don't know, try to get out there with new people. So I was sitting here going like, you need to do this more. Like, what does this success look like? I'm like, doing things like this might be a good start. So that would be my takeaway, is to do more things like this.
My takeaway is just, I don't know how to say in words. I think do more is more of this. I think earlier today I was talking to a friend and they said, we don't know. We left the conversation not knowing any details about each other. Oh, that's my favorite thing to do of all time. And I love how, I don't know your daughters or the babies. I don't know what the baby is. I don't know their name. All right. I know it's 4 months and 2. I also love how I have no idea what your first and last names are combined, and how we were having this amazing experience not knowing any of those details. I think the more we do that, the more we can experience each other and as people, and none of the other stuff really matters. And so I'm taking that with me.
I think I want to be my authentic self more. I think I play a role a lot, whether that's at work or at home. And I would like to find more time just for myself. I've been, I read a book recently and it took me 3.5 years. And I read it every chance I had. And I've been reading a new book now that I finished my 3.5-year book. And I have read 1.5 chapters in the past 4 months. So I'd love to take more time for myself, and sort of like put down a lot of the roles and responsibilities and tasks that I feel like I always need to shroud myself in.
Yeah, one thought that I think I'll carry forward in process from here is recognizing a point, transitioning from thinking about like, what am I working hard towards that is more focused on me, to more focused on like a future that's not me, right? Like what, you know, that thought of like we all do have a expiration date, and while we don't know what that is, there's a certain point where you do start to make sure that like things are you know will carry forward in a way beyond you, and just thinking about that, like what does that look like, and it could be a really long time off in the future, but it sort of is, I think, a stage of you know, when you're a really young child, you're really thinking in the moment of like what needs and things, and like, you know, and then I think as you grow a little older, you can have a little longer range planning time. It maybe that's sort of what I'm saying is like once you get to the next, it's not just long range planning about myself, but it's long range planning about beyond myself, right?
I just like, I listen to you all, and I'm often really digesting what you all are saying in ways that I'm like, I just wish so many people could meet you all. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate you spending your Saturday evening with me and with each of you. And I really hope that you find a way to connect with each other individually, together again, as a group, however you want to do it. But I would like to put you all in touch with each other. And I hope that you'll continue the relationships, because there are some really interesting ones that could come out of this.